Hello everyone, welcome to my session 4 teaching memo. I'm recording this on Sunday night because I have to take a friend to the hospital in the morning, so I won't be able to do it in the morning, and I want to get this out to you. I hope you all enjoyed your President's Day and didn't have to work. I know Dr. Laura had that day off, and some schools were off for the whole week. It may not be spring yet, but the temperature in Poughkeepsie made it up to 70 degrees last Thursday. And the Red Sox won their first game, although it was against a college team. They've lost 2 since. But they are predicted to win the division, so as they did last year. So this could be a year for a Patriots-Red Sox sweep. Sorry to tell you that, Yankee fans, but that's the way it is. A little housekeeping. It's a reminder that some of you still have not emailed me your private email address and your cell phone number. I asked everyone to do that in my welcome memo. Of course, every semester, many of you don't read or watch my welcome memo / video. So I know who you are because you don't send me your email address and your phone number. So I will be emailing you once again. I've already done that once and still haven't responded to me. So I will try that again. Many of you are sharing some great websites, which is exactly what I want you to do. I want you to treat the discussion boards as inquiry based. In other words, you ask questions, you go out and find the answers. But just be careful that it's on a current topic and it's relevant to what we're talking about, and try to avoid detailed research articles, because I know most people look at those and say, oops, not reading this. To me, I know how to read those. I look at the abstract, and then if it's something I'm interested in, I'll go right to the conclusions to see what the research suggests. But typically, it's not something you want to look at in this course. You want articles from Edutopia, the Teaching Channel, ASCD, NCTM, the National Science Teachers Association. Those are things that people like to read, and they're usually short and very pertinent to what's going on. So I'm also happy to see a few of you are using the quiz discussion board, and just a few, I think 3 or 4, and you're using it the proper way, which is to not give answers, but to talk about the questions you got wrong and suggest where you can find those. Yeah, I found the answer to that in Hatfield et al. In the chapter 2, and I don't want you to give answers because that is cheating, and that defeats the purpose of using this as a formative assessment. Another reminder is that you should be continuing to fill out your vocabulary in your own words, which I placed in, I think, the first 4 sessions course materials. As you encounter the words and the definitions, fill them out. That way you will not be under a lot of pressure at the end to say, oh my God, I haven't done my vocabulary in my own words. The same goes for your final baseline survey, which you can find excuse me, you can find in session 12 assignments. The questions are basically the same as they were for your initial baseline survey, but in the final one you have to use citations from our course. And so as you go through the course, you will be able to do that if you do it as you're going through it. If you don't, then you're going to be panicking at the end. All right, session 4. I wasn't certain when I first taught this course last semester, and I'm still a little shaky about it, about culturally relevant math. But based on your discussion board responses, they've bolstered my confidence in using this topic in my methods class. I want to thank many of you for finding and sharing some great culturally relevant math sites. You'll notice that I have shared several of them in course materials for this session. Actually, these were from my last course. It is my hope that by the time you finish this course, you will have many great activities that you can add to your teaching repertoire. Storytelling was a hot topic this past week. In the discussion board, several articles and websites were shared. Daniel shared a couple of chapters from a book on storytelling. I've got a link to it right here, which gives you a little background on the process. I believe storytelling is a great segue into problem solving, which we'll be talking about in the upcoming session. And Catherine cited Hatfield, Edwards, Bitter, and Morrow, our textbook, that starting with the most exciting part of the story first is that hook, which will engage more students. Miriam shared an interesting Edutopia article, which I have referenced in the end of the teaching memo, which outlined the following 7 steps to become a storyteller. 1, read as many different world, folk tales, fables, myths, and legends as you can. Watch professional storytellers and take notes about how they do it. Every storyteller is different, and you can learn something from them all. 3, build your confidence by reading your students' picture books or chapter books with an interesting voice. Now, that means a voice where you use prosody and not baby talk. I've heard too many teachers of young children talk to them like they were babies. And this is the way we're going to do it today. And that's not how you read a story. You read it like, and then what do you think happened next? That's respectful. That's a voice that gets students interested, not a sing-songy baby voice. So make the book reading interactive. It will help you create a shared event with a story. So you should stop and ask questions and ask them to make predictions. Pick stories with a small number of characters and repeating events, as these are the easiest to remember. Having said that, pick any story you like. Actually one that you love, because if it captivates you, then it'll captivate your students. Write the stories down in a notebook. Writing helps you remember a story, and it models the same to the children. And it's much like our double entry journal, is that when you're making connections rather than just taking notes, you're making connections and you're having opinions about what you're reading, is a much more powerful way to remember what you're reading and what you're studying. When you start telling your story, it's okay to have the book nearby and to take a look at it if you forget a part. Don't be too hard on yourself. You are a student again. You're learning how to do this. Get yourself a prop box. I like this. Made of old bits of linen, and fill it out with hats and charity shops from charity shops and random objects that children can use imaginatively. The author got a lot of his materials from recycling centers. And then finally on session 4, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Victoria, who shared an excellent video of educator Rochelle Gutierrez, who gave an impassioned presentation about being an activist for mathematics, which really ties into our first session about having the right attitude about math. I was so impressed with it, I shared it on my assessment Facebook page, which I have right here. I'll show you. There it is. There's my great picture of me with my shades on. And there's the article that Victoria shared. This is actually it's my assessment Facebook page, but I don't think I can change the name of it. If I could, I would. But I do add a lot of different types of material here. If you'll go scroll through it, you'll see. And one of the thing is 3 must-haves for meaningful formative assessment. So very pertinent things to what all of you will need as teachers. So please go on there, and if you like it, of course you'll get notifications. I'm sure you all know how Facebook works. In the upcoming session, we'll be focusing on the last general topic of teaching math by looking at the process of problem solving. To me, this is one of the most important strategies one can use in teaching math. The National Council of Teachers of Mathematics, the NCTM, has been pushing problem solving, many times unsuccessfully, for years as a mainstay for making math relevant for students. I've placed several pertinent resources in course materials, and I'll just point those out to you. If you go into session coursework by week, session 5, you'll see right in the assignment, on the assignment page, the 5 readings are right here. If you click on them, it'll take you to my my Google Documents page, and there's Hatfield et al. Chapter 5. You're fortunate I put all these on there before I made it mandatory for your textbook. So technically you don't have to buy a textbook for this course, but I would recommend it. This is a very, very good book. Those are the 5 readings, and this is the assignment, which is a little different, and so I'm going to explain it to you. Is that you are going to create a 5-question multiple choice quiz that that's going to be your initial post, and I don't believe I have you upload it, so you don't have to upload it. I doubt, because you're not going to find too many multiple choice quizzes on these 5 learning targets. So you have to have 1 question for each of these learning targets. And you may say, oh my God, how am I going to do that? Well, if you go into course materials, as always, I have exemplars. Here is exemplar 1, and this is a very good one. I challenge you all to create reasoning questions. This is a reasoning question, this very first one. It's giving a scenario and ask students to make inferences or to compare and contrast, or to evaluate, so you'll get an idea how to do that. I've also added some resources in course materials that will help you. These are the 5 resources that your questions should be based on. Here are this chapter 4 and 5. Actually, chapter 5 is the main one on creating a selected response test, and the multiple choice section is in that chapter. This is a guidebook. Is this a trick question? We want our assessments to be able to tell us if our students know and understand what we're teaching, not try to trick them, which used to be the way many teachers created tests. And this last one by Susan Brookhart, Making the Most of Multiple Choice, really goes into how to make reasoning questions. So I challenge you how to make reasoning questions. To make reasoning questions, and not just simple knowledge-based questions. How many? What's the name? What's the date? Things of that nature. Those are all knowledge-type questions, and those are the ones that most of you rail against. These questions don't assess reasoning. They just assess memorization. So you will learn. If you took my assessment course, you already know how to do this. And then you're going to continue creating your lesson plan using the resources from additional course materials, which are additional resources right here, and lesson plan resources. Everything you need is here. There's the rubric. This is lesson plan ideas. I think in the NCTM Illuminations has lesson plans. Lesson plans here, Teacher Vision, math lessons from TeacherNet. I also believe I have Engage New York, which has many lesson plans right here. Excuse me, Engage New York lesson plans. These are exemplar EdTPA lesson plans. There's a kindergarten one, a grade 4 one, and other resources for creating excellent lesson plans. So that's it for this week. That discussion board will be open for 2 weeks, and again, it's going to be graded on a modified discussion board rubric. So it's a little different. You don't have to have references. Where is it? Okay, you don't have, it's just 2 characteristics of quality: and your initial post and timeliness. So make your initial post within the first 7 days. You'll get an A. At least 6 postings on a minimum of 3 separate days. So you're used to those 2. It's just 2 of the 4 characteristics of the regular discussion board rubric. But you don't have to do citations. All you have to do is take the tests of 5 of your group mates or 5 of your classmates, and respond to them. And you don't have to, but I would grade them and tell your test takers what grade they got. So there's not a lot involved in this. The hardest part is creating the test. So you're going to have to read the material, the 5 different readings, and then create a question, a multiple choice question for each of those 5 different resources, each of those 5 different learning targets. So you're going to learn a couple of things. You're going to learn the material, and you're also going to learn how to align questions to learning targets, which is the only way you should create tests for your students or quizzes. All right, so that's it. I will be back in 1 week for session 5.